What's up, guys? It's Caleb from Caleb the Video Maker 2. This video is your second video in your database clustering series. This video we are going to be talking about terminology. So we need to make sure we are on the same page, because I'm going to be throwing words out and like, oh, this is a database node. And I'll be thinking, obviously it's a node of a cluster, and you're going to be like, Node.js, and we're just not going to be on the same page, okay? So let's make sure we just build the foundation nice and slow. I know you guys just want to go in there and start building clusters and configuring stuff, but slow down, okay? So let me give you a little story about how this all got started. Several nines came up to me and was like, yo bro, we need some videos over database clustering. And I was like, oh heck yeah, I can do that. And then reality came in, slapped me in the face, and then I realized, I don't really know that much about database clustering, but I know enough to know that I can learn the material, and that was enough for me. And that gave me the benefit because I'm coming into this still fairly new, and all these little confusing terms that, the database pros are like, obviously this is what this means, like everyone knows that. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, I'm able to take it a little slower and make sure I really define these basic terms. So by the end of this video, it's probably already halfway over because I've been blabbering this whole time, you are going to have the foundation needed to start working with, building, and managing your database clusters. Now, unfortunately, this is a series on technology. And technology can never just be simple. So even with these terms, there are disagreements amongst fellow database clusterers. So I'm going to give you the terms that I believe are the most widely accepted and most appropriate terms. But if for any reason you disagree, that's totally okay. Feel free to unsubscribe, leave a comment saying how I wasted your life, and move on. But if you're a beginner, I'm going to give you the definitions that are going to help you the most in your database career. So let's get started, no more wasting time. The very first thing is database cluster. Now we kind of talked about this in the previous video. A cluster is basically just, a group of computers working to build the data layer of your application. So rather than just having one computer, you can connect this in this like Illuminati confirmed shape, and these are all going to be what's called the database cluster. Now, a database cluster is a big thing. So inside of a database cluster, we have other terms. So for example, one of these terms you're going to hear is node. Now, I mentioned these are computers, right? Well, a more proper term would be node. And a node is just an instance of a database. So for example, an instance of MySQL. You download MySQL, you install it, you have the thing running in the background, you have an instance of a database. Now, if you put that little instance of a database inside of a bigger collection of these nodes, you could say that it is a node of a database cluster. So the reason I'm making this kind of distinction is because I mentioned that these are computers, but they're not technically having to be computers. For example, you could have one node on a computer, and then you could actually have another node on the same computer. So basically you're running two instances of a database on one computer. This can come up if you're talking about like shared hosting, where there's multiple database instances on one computer. But if you don't really care about all the details, you can just think of each piece as something running that database. In most circumstances, you're going to have one node per computer. So you have a computer over here, and that is going to be a node. And that will connect to other computers, which serve also as one node. The next term we are going to discuss is topology. Now, topology is the study of tops of things. I'm just playing, it's totally not. The topology describes the infrastructure of your database cluster. So there's different ways you can set up your database cluster. And the fancy word for that is topology. So there's two main topologies. We have what's known as master-master and master-slave. Within these topologies, you're going to have different types of nodes. So for example, you can either have a master node, or you can have, you guessed it, slave node. Now, what is the primary difference between a master node and a slave node? So the master node is kind of like the boss node. The master node, you can write to it and you can read from it. The slave node, on the other hand, the only thing you can do with the slave node is read from it. So the slave node actually just copies its data from the master. So this way I'm describing it is kind of the typical explanation for a master-slave topology. For a master-master topology, you basically just replace this slave node with a master node. And what that means is you can write and read from all of the nodes. Let's compare these two topologies. So this is the master-slave topology. And the way this works is you write data to the master, and then that data gets transmitted to the slaves. The master-master, you can write to any of these things. So you could write to this one, and that data will be propagated to the other masters. Or you could write to this one, and it will propagate to the other masters. Or you can write to this one, and it'll propagate to the other masters. So you can see this gets a little bit complex, and some people will even treat a master-master topology as a master-slave topology. So now it's getting really confusing because you have a master-master topology, but you're treating it as a master-slave. So in that situation, you kind of pick one of these masters to be like the master-master. So let's say this is the master-master. This is the one we are going to read and write from. And then these are the ones you're going to read from. But they still have the ability to write in case that situation does come up. Okay, so this is a little complex, and don't worry about getting that all right now. That'll kind of piece together as time goes on. That's all I really got for this video. I know it was short, there was only a couple terms, but just to review, overall you have a database cluster. That cluster has one of two topologies, master-master or master-slave. Those decide what kind of nodes you have, either a master node, which has read and write, or a slave node, which is just read. A node itself is just an instance of a database. You can have multiple nodes on one computer if you want, but most of the time you're going to have one node per computer. That is your introduction to database clustering terminology, and as always, please be sure to subscribe. That really helps my channel out. As always, please click like, and follow me on Twitter. I don't know why I said it like that, but do it. Also, share these videos with a friend. That would really help me out, and I'd be really thankful. So, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!